A fleeting memory, a whisper from the dawn of existence, flickered through Aphrodite's consciousness. She recalled her nascent form, a hecaton Kyries, a being of immense power and undefined gender, her essence shimmering with the raw potential of creation. She saw herself amidst the 11 others, their forms colossal, their limbs countless, their eyes burning with the budding fire of consciousness. She watched as the first eggs, 12 shimmering orbs, emerged from her own being, a shedding of potential, a birthing of new life. She saw exactly 12 eggs fall from each of the other hecatonchires as well, as if some cosmic force dictated the precise number of offspring they were to bear. Around her, the other hecatonchires began to split, their forms dividing, their faces leaping from their bodies to form new entities, each one a fragment of the original, a dilution of their essence. 9 of the 12 succumbed to this fragmentation, their forms fracturing into a multitude of lesser beings. But Daria, the first among them, resisted. Her form, instead of splitting, grew more crystalline, her essence solidifying, her will resisting the urge to divide. Each time a face attempted to leap from her body, she suppressed it, her resolve unwavering, her identity coalescing. Aphrodite, witnessing Daria's defiance, felt a resonance within her own being. She too desired to remain whole, to retain her unique essence, to forge her own path rather than become a fragmented echo of another. With a surge of burgeoning willpower, she suppressed the 10 million faces that clamoured for separation, their pleas for individuality drowned out by her burgeoning sense of self. Her form, instead of fracturing, grew more refined, more harmonious, more beautiful. And then, with a final flourish of creative energy, she emerged, Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, love, lust and bonding, her essence a radiant beacon in the fledgling cosmos. Besides Daria and Aphrodite, only one other hecatonchires did not split, though it was quite different as well from becoming a single being. Either way, they mutated from the hecatonchires, the nymphs. Aphrodite turned her gaze towards the 12 eggs that had sprung from her being, their shells now shimmering with anticipation. "My loves," she whispered, her voice a melody of maternal affection. "My Erotes, my children of connection." She watched as they hatched one by one, their forms emerging, each one unique, each one carrying a spark of of their own divine essence. She saw in them the potential for love, for bonding, for the creation of connections that would weave the tapestry of existence, the symphony of relationships that would bind the multiverse together. And as she journeyed towards Tartarus, her heart filled with a fierce determination to liberate her imprisoned children. The memory of their birth, the echo of their incipient cries, fueled her resolve. She would not allow Cronus nor any other force to disrupt the sacred flow of connection, to extinguish the flame of love that burned within her Erotes. She would fight for them, for their freedom, for their potential to bring harmony and unity to the macrocosm. She would reclaim her dominion over the realm of love and connection, and ensure that the bonds of affection, the ties that bind, would forever remain unbroken. Aphrodite, her resolve hardened, realized that reaching Tartarus would be difficult. Tartarus was not just a physical place. She needed Hades, the immortal of the sunship Adonis, with the ability to open gateways between the 7 realities. But Adonis was notoriously reclusive, his whereabouts shrouded in mystery. Finding him would be no easy feat. Yet Aphrodite was not one to be deterred. She would use her unique gifts, her power to forge connections, to uncover his location and secure his cooperation. And so she embarked on a quest, a seductive odyssey across the cosmos, seeking out any sunship who might possess information about Adonis. She utilized her irresistible allure, her innate ability to forge intimate bonds, to extract knowledge from those who crossed her path. With each encounter, she gained a piece of the puzzle, a clue that drew her closer to her goal. One by one, she sought out the sunship, her presence a whirlwind of passion and lust. She danced with Hypnos, the god of hypnosis, his mind clouded by her intoxicating presence. She seduced Kairos, the tempestuous wind of opportunity, his fleeting ways indulging under her touch, whispering secrets of Adonis's secluded havens. She entwined herself with Charon, the ferryman of the hellish rivers and ocean, while sailing the Nile. Surely he had knowledge of Adonis's whereabouts. With each bond she forged, with each secret she uncovered, Aphrodite felt a growing sense of purpose. This was not just about rescuing the Erotes, it was about reclaiming her power, asserting her authority in a cosmos that had sought to diminish her. She would not be relegated to the sidelines, a mere observer in the grand cosmic drama. She would be a force to be reckoned with, a catalyst for change, a champion of connection in a world fractured by conflict and division. And as she drew closer to Adonis, her resolve hardened, her determination fueled by a righteous fury and a newfound understanding of her own potential. She would not rest until she had confronted Cronus and liberated the Erotes' sonship. Aphrodite, following the whispers of desire and the echoes of forgotten paths, eventually found Adonis nestled within the heart of a hidden nebula, a swirling vortex of stardust and dreams. He was surrounded by intricate maps and celestial charts, his fingers tracing the delicate lines reality, his mind awash in the profoundness of existence. As their eyes met, a spark ignited, a recognition of kindred spirits. Adonis, the architect of passages, the weaver of pathways, saw in Aphrodite a depth of emotion, a profoundness of being that mirrored his own. He was captivated by her radiant beauty, her aura of love and desire, but it was the glimpse of vulnerability, the hint of sorrow that flickered beneath the surface, that truly captured his heart. He had spent eons wandering the hidden corridors of existence, seeking meaning, yearning for someone who could understand the profound depths of reality, the hidden layers of meaning that lay beneath the surface of perception. And in Aphrodite he saw a reflection of his own longing, a kindred spirit who shared his appreciation for the intimate mysteries of the cosmos. Aphrodite, sensing his admiration, his genuine affection, felt a warmth spread through her being. It was a welcome contrast to the manipulative encounters she had endured in her quest to find him. She saw in Adonis a purity of intention, a sincerity of emotion that disarmed her, momentarily softening the edges of her hardened resolve. "Adonis," she began, her voice gentle, her usual seductive tone tempered by a newfound respect. "I seek your aid. I need your immortal, your ability to open pathways between realities. I must reach Tartarus, the prison realm where my children, the Erotes, are held captive." Adonis's brow furrowed with concern. "Aphrodite, queen of beauty," he said, his voice filled with a gentle caution. "Tartarus is not a place to be trifled with. It is the ultimate reality, the source of pure consciousness, but it manifests as a realm of torment, a hellscape for those who experience separation from that source. It is a place of profound suffering, where the very fabric of one's being unravels." He explained the nature of the 7 realities, each one a different facet of existence, each one connected by hidden pathways that he, as the holder of the immortal Hades, could navigate. He spoke of oceans, the physical reality, the realm of tangible matter and earthly existence. He described the 4 rivers, the causal reality, where the karmic threads of individuals intertwined and the consequences of actions unfolded. He painted a vivid picture of the mourning fields, the emotional reality, where beings confronted the depths of their feelings, their joys and sorrows laid bare. He spoke of the asphodel meadows, the mental reality, where the illusions of perception began to unravel and the true nature of the mind became apparent. He shared his knowledge of the Elysian fields, the spiritual reality, where the essence of being, the soul's journey, and the interconnectedness of all things were revealed. And he spoke of the Isles of the Blessed, the blissful reality, a realm of peace, contentment, and profound happiness. But it was Tartarus, the ultimate reality, that held his greatest concern. He knew the dangers it posed, the promise of annihilation, the ultimate reality of losing oneself completely in the abyss of pure consciousness. "Aphrodite," he said, his voice filled with a deep sincerity, "I cannot bear the thought of you facing such peril. I will not open that pathway for you, not without a guarantee of your safety." Aphrodite, her resolve unwavering, met his gaze with a determined glint in her eyes. "Adonis," she replied, "I understand your concern, but I cannot turn back. My children are trapped, their light fading, their potential for love extinguished. I must reach them no matter the cost." She saw the conflict in his eyes, the struggle between his desire to help her and his fear for her safety. And she knew that she had to offer him an alternative, a way to fulfill her request without compromising his principles. "Adonis," she said, her voice softening. "I will not ask you to violate your conscience, but I need your power, your ability to open the pathway. Allow me to bond with you, to share your essence, to access your immortal. Together we can navigate the path to Tartarus, and I can protect myself with your strength." Adonis, his heart torn between his love for her and his fear for her safety, hesitated. He had never shared his immortal with another, never allowed anyone to access the depths of his being in such a profound way. But he also could not deny her plea, could not stand idly by while she faced such peril. He looked into her eyes, searching for a sign, a guarantee that she understood the risks, that she was prepared for the challenges ahead. And in her gaze, he saw a reflection of his own longing, his own yearning for connection, his own willingness to face the unknown in the pursuit of love. With a deep breath and a trembling heart, he nodded his assent. "Very well, Aphrodite," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of love and trepidation. Aphrodite, her form now imbued with the power of Adonis's immortal, Hades, stood poised at the threshold of the first reality, the oceans. With a determined glint in her eyes, she stepped forward, bracing herself for the unknown. The transition was swift, a blurring of senses as she traversed the hidden pathways between realities. She emerged into a world of swirling waters, a vast expanse of oceanic currents and crashing waves. But to her surprise, the water seemed to part before her, a path opening amidst the turbulent depths. She walked through the oceans, her feet barely touching the surface of the water, her form enveloped in a protective aura that shielded her from the crushing depths and the tempestuous currents. She emerged on the other side, her garments slightly dampened, but her resolve undeterred. Next came the four rivers, the karmic reality, where the consequences of actions manifested in a torrent of chaotic energies. As she stepped into this realm, a horrifying sight greeted her. Thousands of ravenous monsters, their forms grotesque and distorted, their eyes burning with a primal hunger, surged towards her. They tore at her garments, their claws ripping through the delicate fabric, exposing her divine form to their insatiable gaze. They ripped her golden clasps and shredded her divine robe. They groped and clawed, their fingers and phalluses violating every orifice, their touch a violation of her being, a mockery of the love and connection she embodied. Aphrodite cried out, her voice a mixture of pain and defiance. As she fought against the onslaught, she fought, but monsters were relentless, their hunger insatiable, their forms fueled by the karmic debts of countless beings. They pressed against her, their touch a defilement, their presence a desecration of her sacred essence. Aphrodite, her strength waning, her spirit faltering, felt the darkness closing in. She had underestimated the perils of this reality, the karmic consequences that manifested in such grotesque forms. But she would not surrender. She would not allow the monsters to consume her, to extinguish the flame of love that burned within her. With a final surge of willpower, she unleashed the Hades immortal, her form erupting in a blinding flash of light. The monsters recoiled, their forms momentarily disintegrating under the intensity of its radiance. Aphrodite, battered and bruised, her garments in tatters, stumbled through the chaotic currents, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. She had survived the four rivers, but the journey was far from over. The path to Tartarus was fraught with peril, and she knew that even greater challenges awaited her. But she would not falter, she would not rest until she had liberated her loves. Battered but resolute, Aphrodite stumbled across the threshold into the morning fields, the third reality on her path to Tartarus. Here, the very air thrummed with raw emotion, a symphony of joy and sorrow, ecstasy and despair, echoing through the ages. A wave of intense feeling crashed over her, a torrent of memories and sensations. She relived the exquisite pleasure of countless intimate encounters, each touch, each embrace, each climax a vibrant echo in her being. She felt such joy and pleasure. But then a darker current surged through her, a chilling undertow of guilt and shame. She felt the guilty pleasure each conquest, even the ones she claimed were against her, being filled her with a type of gratification. She felt the unwilling surrender to the ravenous monsters, the violation of her body, and a perverse pleasure intertwined with the pain, a forbidden thrill that sent a shiver down her spine. The conflicting emotions overwhelmed her, tearing at the fabric of her composure. Doubt gnawed at her core, whispering insidious questions. Was she a fraud? A hypocrite? Was her pursuit of connection merely a thinly veiled excuse for self-gratification? Had she been using the Erotes, using everyone to fulfill her own insatiable desires? The thought was unbearable, a poison that seeped into her very essence. She felt a manipulative pleasure in the denial of Himerus, then saw a dreamlike vision of him, withered and lifeless, hopeless, and dying for her love, his eyes accusing, his voice a whisper of betrayal. The memory of his desperate yearning, his unrequited love, pierced her heart like a shard of ice. "I lied," she sobbed, her tears flowing freely, mingling with the sorrow that permeated the morning fields. "I told myself I was protecting him, protecting my energy. But it was a lie. I was afraid. Afraid of his vulnerability, afraid of my own." The weight of her deception, the realization of her own hypocrisy, crushed her spirit. She had failed to acknowledge the true worth in connections, failed to offer real love and acceptance. And now, he was gone. They were gone. Lost to the abyss of despair, a victim of her own fear and self-deception. Broken and defeated, Aphrodite stumbled through the morning fields, her tears tracing paths through the swirling emotions that surrounded her. The pathway, sensing her despair, whisked her away to the Asphodel Meadows, the fourth reality, a realm of muted colours and sombre reflections. She found herself in a pale landscape, the ground a canvas of black and white, the sky a monochrome expanse. Only the flowers scattered across the meadows retained their vibrant hues, splashes of colour in a world drained of vibrancy. Aphrodite, a shell of her former self, collapsed amidst the pale blossoms, her energy depleted, her spirit shattered. How could she go on? How could she face the other, Erotes, knowing the truth of her own failings, the hypocrisy that had led to Himerus' demise? The path to Tartarus stretched before her, a daunting reminder of her mission, her responsibility. But how could she liberate her children? How could she champion love and connection when she herself was lost in a sea of doubt and despair? The weight of her burden threatened to consume her, to extinguish the last embers of her divine fire. She needed to find a way to heal, to reconcile with her past, to rediscover the essence of her being. But in this desolate realm of shadows and reflections, the path forward seemed shrouded in darkness. The hope of redemption, a distant, flickering flame, a pale imitation of her vibrant self, wandered through the Asphodel Meadows, the monochrome landscape mirroring the desolation within her heart. The colourful flowers that dotted the paleness mocked her with their vibrancy, a stark contrast to the muted emotions that coursed through her being. Days bled into nights, and still she lingered, haunted by the echoes of her past, the weight of her hypocrisy, a heavy cloak upon her shoulders. She revisited every encounter, every seduction, every moment of intimacy, dissecting her motivations, searching for the truth beneath the layers of self-deception. And as she delved deeper into the labyrinth of her own psyche, she encountered the shadows she had long suppressed. They emerged from the depths of her subconscious, taking on grotesque forms that mirrored her deepest fears and insecurities. A shadow of doubt whispered insidious questions, its voice a venomous hiss that echoed through the chambers of her mind. "Are you truly the goddess of love?" it taunted. "Or are you merely a parasite, feeding on the desires of others, using connection as a guise for your own selfish gratification?" A shadow of guilt materialized before her, its form a writhing mass of tormented souls, their eyes accusing, their voices a chorus of condemnation. "You revel in your conquests," it hissed, "but you turn a blind eye to the pain you inflict, the hearts you break, the bonds you shatter." A shadow of fear loomed over her, its presence a suffocating weight that threatened to crush her spirit. "You fear vulnerability," it whispered, its voice a chilling echo of her own anxieties. "You hide behind your beauty, your allure, your power, but deep down, you are terrified of being seen, of being rejected, of being truly known." Aphrodite, confronted by these manifestations of her own darkness, recoiled in horror. She had never allowed herself to acknowledge these shadows, these uncomfortable truths that lurked beneath the surface of her carefully constructed persona. But in the Asphodel Meadows, the realm of mental clarity, there was nowhere to hide. She was forced to confront the reality of her being, the complex tapestry of light and shadow that defined her essence. And as she grappled with these unwelcome truths, a profound realization dawned upon her. She was not simply a goddess of love and beauty. She was also a creature of darkness, capable of manipulation, selfishness, and cruelty. She was a reflection of the multifaceted nature of existence, the intricate dance of opposing forces that shaped the cosmos. This realization, though painful, was also liberating. It freed her from the illusion of perfection, the burden of expectations she had placed upon herself. It allowed her to embrace the totality of her being, the light and the shadow, the love and the lust, the connection and the isolation. And in that embrace, she found a new strength, a resilience born from acceptance. She was not perfect, but she was whole. She was not just a goddess, but a being in progress, a traveller on the path of self-discovery, a seeker of truth and authenticity. She rose from the pale ground, her form radiating a newfound resolve. She would not allow her shadows to define her. She would not succumb to the despair that threatened to consume her. She would continue her journey, not as a flawless deity, but as a flawed yet determined being, seeking redemption, seeking connection, seeking the true meaning of love in a multiverse fractured by chaos and division. The Elysian fields shimmered, a realm of pure, unadulterated pleasure. Aphrodite, stepping into the radiant landscape, found herself face to face with Daria, a being unlike any she'd encountered. Daria's crystalline form, naked and adorned with intricate, glowing runes, pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Even as Aphrodite watched, fleeting faces, ephemeral and distressed, flickered and attempted to escape from Daria's surface, only to be reabsorbed. Daria's gaze, intense and brimming with raw desire, locked onto Aphrodite. A slow, deliberate bite of her lip sent a jolt of heat through Aphrodite's veins. "Goddess of love, Aphrodite," Daria's voice purred, a low, resonant hum. "Welcome." She gestured towards 12 magnificent beings, their forms radiating a raw, potent energy. "These are my Elysian sonship," Daria declared, her voice thick with anticipation. "The bulls of heaven. They yearn for you." Aphrodite, her senses heightened, felt a surge of desire, a primal urge to surrender to the moment. She had spent lifetimes suppressing her true nature, denying the depths of her lust. But here, in this realm of pure bliss, she felt liberation, an acceptance of her multifaceted self. "They are magnificent," Aphrodite breathed, her eyes tracing the powerful lines of the sunship's forms. Daria moved closer, her crystalline hand reaching out to trace the curve of Aphrodite's cheek. "They are yours if you desire them," she whispered, her breath warm against Aphrodite's ear. "And I desire to share them with you." The invitation hung in the air, a promise of unbridled pleasure, of a connection that transcended the boundaries of the physical. Aphrodite, no longer bound by the chains of self-denial, felt a thrill course through her. She was ready to embrace the fullness of her being, to revel in the raw intensity of her desires. "Then let us indulge," she replied, her voice a low, husky murmur. With a shared glance, the two goddesses moved towards the waiting sunship, their forms radiating a promise of shared ecstasy. Daria, the crystalline hecaton Kyrie, stood before her, her naked body adorned with intricate runes, her lips bitten in a gesture of unrestrained lust. The 12 Elysian sonship, the bulls of heaven, radiated a potent masculinity. Their eyes locked onto Aphrodite with an eager hunger. The arguments for restraint flickered through her mind, but they were quickly extinguished by the overwhelming tide of her own desires. She had spent all of existence denying her true nature, suppressing her lust under the guise of noble intentions. But no more. She had confronted her shadows, embraced her complexity, and now she would revel in the fullness of her being. "Yes," she whispered to herself, her voice husky with arousal. "Yes, I will indulge." With a confident stride, she approached Daria, their bodies meeting in a passionate embrace. She felt the cool smoothness of Daria's crystalline skin against her own, the intricate runes tracing patterns of desire across her flesh. Their lips met, tongues entwining in a dance of shared pleasure, their breaths mingling in the charged air. Aphrodite, her senses heightened, felt a thrill course through her as she surrendered to the moment. This was not about manipulation, not about control, not about grandstanding as the goddess of connection. This was about pure, unadulterated pleasure, about embracing the raw intensity of her desires. She revelled in the vulnerability, the surrender, the shared ecstasy that bound her to Daria and the 12 Elysian sonship. Their bodies intertwined, a symphony of flesh and passion, their energies merging in a crescendo of shared sensation. Aphrodite, her heart pounding with a primal rhythm, felt a profound connection surge through her. It was not the calculated, orchestrated connection she had sought in the past, but a raw, unfiltered bond forged in the crucible of shared desire. She revelled in the intensity of the moment, the exquisite pleasure that coursed through her being, the vulnerability that both terrified and exhilarated her. This was a new experience, a liberation from the shackles of her own self-imposed limitations. And as she surrendered to the embrace of Daria and the bulls of heaven, she felt a sense of wholeness, a completeness that transcended the physical. She was not just a goddess of love and beauty, but a creature of passion, a conduit for desire, a vessel for the raw, untamed energy that fueled the cosmos. This encounter in the Elysian fields was not just an indulgence, but a transformation. It was a shedding of old patterns, a breaking of chains, a reclaiming of her true self. And as she emerged from the embrace, she walked through the aisles of the blessed, her form glowing with a newfound radiance. She knew that she was ready to face the challenges ahead, to confront Cronus, to liberate the Erotes sonship, and to redefine the very meaning of love and connection in a multiverse yearning for balance and harmony. As she journeyed towards Tartarus, her heart filled with a fierce determination to liberate her imprisoned children, the memory of their birth, the echo of their incipient cries, fueled her resolve. She would not allow Cronus nor any other force to disrupt the sacred flow of connection, to extinguish the flame of love that burned within her Erotes. She would fight for them, for their freedom, for their potential to bring harmony and unity to the macrocosm. She would reclaim her dominion over the realm of love and connection, and ensure that the bonds of affection, the ties that bind, would forever remain unbroken. She travelled the pathway to Tartarus using the Hades immortal. Once there, Aphrodite bathed in the soft glow of Tartarus. She felt a sense of homecoming she hadn't expected. The twisted, chaotic landscape, typically a source of dread and despair, held a strange allure for her now. The rocks, though jagged and misshapen, radiated a warmth that seeped into her very being, a comforting embrace that welcomed her into the heart of ultimate reality. The oppressive atmosphere she had anticipated was replaced by a gentle caress, a warm summer breeze that whispered secrets of existence and the interconnectedness of all things. She had come to grips with the true nature of this realm, the ultimate reality of pure consciousness, and in doing so, she had transcended the fear, the sense of separation that had haunted her in the previous realities. But even as she revelled in this newfound understanding, she felt the subtle pull of Tartarus, the gradual erosion of her individual identity, as her essence merged with the boundless sea of consciousness. She knew that she could not linger here indefinitely, that the longer she remained, the greater the risk of losing herself completely. With renewed determination, she sought out Cronus, her footsteps echoing through the desolate landscape. She found him amidst a circle of shimmering eggs, his form radiating a weary determination, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and despair. "Cronus," she greeted him, her voice a gentle echo in the vast expanse. "I have come to liberate my children, the Erotes." Cronus, his gaze fixed on the imprisoned Erotes, nodded slowly. "Aphrodite," he replied, his voice heavy with regret. "I understand your anger, your frustration. But I had no choice. Pyrachmon, consumed by his obsession with chaos, threatened to destroy us all. I sealed the Erotes in their primordial state to protect them, to preserve their essence from the corrupting influence of Tartarus." He gestured towards the shimmering eggs, their forms radiating a faint pulsating light. "But thanks to you, Aphrodite, thanks to your journey through the 7 realities, we now have a way out. You have shown us the path to redemption, the path to unity, the path to a future where love and connection can flourish once more." Aphrodite, her heart softening, felt a wave of understanding wash over her. Cronus, despite his harsh methods, had acted out of a desire to protect, to preserve. He had made a difficult choice, a sacrifice, in the face of overwhelming odds. I forgive you, Cronus, she whispered, her voice filled with compassion. And I thank you. She turned her gaze towards the imprisoned Erotes. My loves, she murmured, her voice a melody of maternal affection. I have come to set you free. She had journeyed through the depths of despair, confronted her shadows and emerged transformed, a goddess reborn, a champion of connection, a beacon of hope in a multiverse yearning for love and unity. Aphrodite, her heart brimming with a newfound sense of purpose, watched as Cronus raised his adamantine scythe, its edge shimmering with the power of time itself. He had imprisoned the Erotes within these eggs as a protective measure, a desperate act in the face of overwhelming chaos. Now he would use his immortal stagnation, not to imprison, but to reverse the process, to regress the very essence of imprisonment itself. With a focused will, Cronus channeled his power, his scythe tracing intricate patterns in the air, unravelling the temporal threads that bound the Erotes within their shells. The eggs shimmered, their surfaces distorting, their forms dissolving into a swirling vortex of energy. One by one, the Erotes emerged, their forms shimmering with newfound vitality, their eyes wide with wonder and confusion. They looked around, disoriented, at the strange, desolate landscape of Tartarus. Aphrodite, her voice filled with warmth and reassurance, stepped forward. Welcome, she said, her voice echoing through the cavernous space. You are free. The Erotes, their forms still shimmering with the residual energy of their imprisonment, looked to Aphrodite, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and wonder. They had been trapped, their potential stifled, their very existence threatened. But now they were free, and they knew that it was thanks to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and connection, who had risked everything to liberate them. Cronus, watching the Erotes emerge, felt a sense of relief wash over him. With a shared understanding, Cronus, Aphrodite, and the liberated Erotes began their journey back to the physical reality, leaving behind the desolate landscape of Tartarus. As they traversed the hidden pathways between realities, guided by Adonis's immortal, they carried with them the echoes of their shared experience, the lessons learned in the depths of Tartarus, the profound understanding that even in the face of darkness, love and hope could endure, could prevail, could ultimately triumph over chaos.